Well, hello everybody. I'm here to talk about my opinion on the non-sex show and various things of that nature. Um, it's going to be pretty short and simple. I'm not planning on rehashing a whole lot more than what's already been said, but I have been pretty silent on the fact, so I felt it's time to weigh in. As we most everybody knows, the Non-Sequitur Show was started as a podcast by Kyle and Steve. Steve convinced Kyle to take it to YouTube. Steve started the YouTube channel, gave it over to Kyle for SEO purposes. The show started making paces, gaining popularity. I know while I couldn't support the show myself financially, I watched just about every show until I started noticing Steve wasn't showing up there. Um, However, I still tried to support the show how I could. Then, 2 months ago, when it came to light that Kyle was confirming what many had thought, he's trying to take over the channel. Um, Sorry, distracted by the chat there for a second. Uh, when Kyle basically confirmed to Steve and Reds and Bool on that recorded uh, private hangout, what he was doing and that he was trying to take the show in a different direction, that's where I kind of lost my support for Kyle. If you watched the non-sex stream last night, you'll see that I made a few comments talking about the Navy core values: honor, courage, and commitment. Now, when it comes to honor and courage, or honor and commitment, I should say, this is this is when this is where I side with Steve. Steve has presented himself as Steve has presented himself as a honorable person. You may not agree with what he says. You may not agree with how he says things. But he usually comes at you straight and level with what his either criticisms are or his point of view on something. Kyle strikes me as the type of person that doesn't care what certain people think about him. He cares about a particular group. And with that, I can't abide by supporting Kyle. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say people shouldn't support Kyle. I'm not going to sit here and say people should only support Steve. You need to look at the evidence that we have at hand right now and weigh it in for yourself and decide what it is that you want. Um, but sorry, Kristen's making some jokes out there and actually kind of distracting. anyways, um, anyways, my point being is, I think people need to decide what they think, what they think they believe in are the facts and what they don't, and stand by them. But what we need to do as a community as a whole, both sides, needs to stop pointing fingers, and that starts. Unfortunately, I'm going to be pointing fingers here. That starts with Reds and Steve, Kyle, GE, and Caitlin. At this point in time, in my opinion, we need to keep this to the courts. We need to keep this to the civil case and let it run its course. Popular opinion doesn't matter at this point. What matters are the facts of the case. And Kristen, it's okay. I don't mind you cracking jokes. I have you off over here, and I'm trying to focus over here. So it's kind of fun when I see them pop up. Um, I'm going to side with Steve, and again, it's because everything that he's shown me and all the evidence that I have seen shows me that Steve is the honorable person. I've watched Unirock as I haven't posted any Unirock's videos, but if you looked at the description, I posted the relevant videos that I think are relevant. But I've watched Unirock's videos and streams on the topic, but I also watched the modern day debate with T Jump. I have to admit, T Jump showed his hand very early on. and that he thinks he has the moral high ground or the intellectual superiority in this instance, and he doesn't. T Jump thinks that it's unethical to prejudge somebody because it's not proven in a court of law. Then he needs to look in the mirror at how he judges everybody else, calling Steve, small-minded and unable to grasp the concepts. It's one of those situations where he just showed that he doesn't like Steve and doesn't care for Steve at all, and therefore Steve is guilty until he can prove otherwise. Um, he's basically taken the YouTube approach that to copyright. In the case of Sly, just kind of bring the two topics together for a moment. T Jump is YouTube. It's like Kyle says Steve is this, therefore I believe Steve is this, until Steve can prove his innocence. Well, unfortunately, T Jump, all the evidence that's been brought out supports Steve. So, there's that. I totally agree, Demonic Davros. I totally agree. But some people who think that they are that intelligent seem to think that they have the moral integrity, the moral high ground on things. But when it comes to the non-sex show, I hope Steve gets it back. I hope the courts don't decide that it just has to be dead and gone at that point, once everything's settled. However, if it is, I'm still going to be supporting Steve in whatever channels he does. Kyle, I probably won't support too much. I watched his show yesterday, like I said, and it sounds like he's ripping off Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives from Food Network, only adding a little bit more history to the building and stuff, which is actually pretty cool. It's pretty interesting. If he ever watches this, here's an idea for you, free of charge. Don't even need to credit me. In the town I live in, there's a little barbecue joint called Smoke and Moses, part of a old U.S. bank, old U.S. federal bank. So go research that, Kyle, if you want to, for your next project. I find that it's hard to weigh in on things like this as they're going on, because again, I don't have all the facts. I don't have all the information. There could be something that Kyle has damning Steve, at which point I would gladly retract anything that I have said. However, right now, based on the evidence at hand, I have to go with what's evident. So, I was thinking about making this a longer stream, a longer hangout, maybe invite people in like Jared and whatnot. But I think that it really just needs to be my opinion, my feelings on the matter, because again, it is, after all, my podcast, my video podcast called Thoughts by Jay Brown for a reason. Like it or love it, hate it or not, feel free to comment, critique, whatever you want. I think Kyle has screwed the pooch here. He had plenty of ways out, and now he's gotten himself into a world of hurt. That world of hurt is going to come back to bite him, and he may not be able to do what he thinks he's going to be able to do on his next show. For the people who support him blindly without stepping back to think, just remember what he did to Steve. And again, this is based on the information we have right now. What he's done to Steve doesn't mean it's not going to happen to you. Now, I know that you guys, G and Kyle, you guys are closer than Steve was to Kyle. That means you need to be doubly aware of what Kyle could do. And Kyle, you need to be doubly aware of what they could do to you. So, anyways, like I said, that's just my take on it. That is just my opinion of the facts. I wish Red still had that video up. I'll try to dig it up and add it below. Gonna take a look at the comments really quick, but Steve may not be liked by everyone. Doesn't matter. Sometimes liking isn't the only thing that matters. What matters is Kyle keeps twisting the facts, clinging to whatever following he has. Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree, Kristen. And also, if Kyle did have something damning on Steve, he would have played it by now. I would think, he would have. However, if he does have an attorney, they could be holding on to it for the court case. I mean, again, I'm speculating on what I don't have information on, and I'm just trying to give Kyle a slight benefit of the doubt, even though to most people he doesn't deserve it. And that's just that. He has burned many bridges in the community, and he's taken his channel to go after, or he's taken the channel to try and go after the social justice movement. And the social justice movement is not the best of friends to people. I mean, just look at what Sarah Silverman had to go through. But with that, I'm going to end it here. Thank you all for watching. For those of you that watched after the fact, comment below, like, dislike, share, whatever you have to do. Again, this is just my opinion on the facts, and I'm going to try and get in touch with Steve and maybe even Kyle to talk about this separately. Obviously, I understand that they're the legal reasons why they can't do that. So, with that, you guys have a great day. Thank you, Kristen, Demonic Davros, and GPS for showing up when you did. So, hopefully we'll see you guys around. I don't have anything else planned for this week other than Veterans Talk Weekly, and movie night, so I'll see you guys then. Have a great time.